Welcome back. You're watching The Money Show on ET Now. Bank Bazaar has released their latest Aspiration Index. They do so every year, but this year's Aspiration Index is something different. They've not just captured the financial aspirations and the financial goals, but the general goals of the average Indian. It could be attaining a certain lifestyle, or it could be, of course, keeping health as their priority. I wouldn't be surprised, of course, if it's the second, given the fact that we've just about managed to come out of a health crisis, and the aim is to avoid delving into a third part of this crisis that we are very much still in the midst of, by the way. So it gives me great pleasure to introduce on the show now Aadil Shetty, who's also co-authored, of course, the Aspiration Index report. Aadil, thank you so much for taking our time and joining us today on The Money Show. So the news is, well, not that great because, I know you release this Aspiration Index every year. We are better off than what we were last year, but we are not as good as where we were in 2019.
That's right, Mubina. So we have moved up by 5 points on this Aspiration Index this year. So this year, we were at a score of 84, and that's 5 points higher than we were last year. And last year was the lowest that we've seen in all of the aspiration indexes we've done. But if we go back to 2018, we were at 87, which is 3 points higher than we are today. So things have improved, but they are not as high as they used to be pre-COVID. Also, like you rightly pointed out, people are emphasizing a lot of their aspirations on relationships and health. So this year we found out that the focus on relationships in terms of the importance of relationships, the readiness to invest in relationships, spending time with loved ones, that has increased to very high levels. And health is also a very important aspiration given what the pandemic has done to all of us.
So economic and non-economic indices. You know what, since we're a business news channel, let's start off with the economic bit first. How do you think the pandemic has changed the financial goals of an individual? Perhaps reprioritized it? Or do you think that from a financial perspective, the aspirations of the average Indian more or less remains the same?
So let's talk about what the main financial goals are that Indians have. And I think three goals stand out immediately to us. So the highest priority in terms of financial goals is being accorded to saving and investing for a child's education. So this got the highest aspiration index of 91 points. Now, the second financial goal is owning your own home, which has got 88 points. And the third most important financial goal is saving to retire early, which has got 82 points. So I think this is the first thing we take note of. Saving for your child's education, I think every parent out there, everyone says this is their number one priority. The second is getting your own home, and the third is saving for retirement. Now, these three financial goals, Mubina, were the top three financial goals even pre-pandemic. So it's not like the pandemic changed our financial goals. The financial goals remain the same. But we also calculate an important metric, which is saying what is the gap between the importance you accord a goal and where you are today. And there we see something very interesting standing out in the 2021 Bank Bazaar Aspiration Index. So people believe, right, that because a child's education has got highest priority, the gap between where they want to be or what is the importance of a goal and where they are today, for a child's education, it is fairly small. However, the gap that we're seeing in terms of owning your own home and in terms of planning for retirement, that has suffered a setback because, people are going through salary cuts, people are going through job losses. So the gap has opened up in terms of owning your own home and planning for retirement. So people have prioritized child's education over saving up for the home and retirement.
Okay. All right, that's very interesting indeed. An aspiration readiness gap, as we call it, and where are the gaps the most? In which goals were the gap seen as the highest? And I think children's education really seems to have not only been prioritized as a goal, but in terms of achieving that goal as well, people have managed to sort of close the gap between how much they'll have to save in terms of a corpus for their child's education and how much they have ready with them. This is very interesting indeed. Now, there are various different cohorts you have interviewed for your survey, Aadil. Do you think between the early jobbers, the millennials, the Gen X's, do you think the priorities are different for each of the age cohorts? Because obviously I would imagine that the Gen Ys and the Gen X's would put health as a priority, would put retirement as a priority. But today when we talk to the younger population, what the general sense that you get is that they're not slackers, but they are looking to make money. They do want to be known. They do want to not miss out on the trends, the latest ones. So how have you seen the aspirations, the priorities, financial goals change for all of these age cohorts?
Right. So let me start by saying that what you just said earlier, right, is that people have put their money into child's education over and above everything else. And it is also intuitive, right? Because if this is your number one priority and you have a limited set of resources, you would direct your limited resources towards the child's education. And that's what's happened. Now, like you rightly pointed out, I think the power of this survey is that we went through about 1,700 respondents across all of the metros and 20 non-metro cities, right? And now let's cut this by age and let's cut it by gender and see what stands out. So I'm going to focus on the women category, and let's look through where they believe the biggest gap is that they want to focus on, right? So when we look at what we call wealth warriors, and we call people between 35 and 45 as wealth warriors because you're settled in your career, you're thinking about saving, investing, building up money. The biggest gap in the women wealth warrior category, Mubina, has been owning your home. So that I think is something that's really driving home, saying in my mid-30s, I see a gap between wanting to own a home and where I am today. And that's where I want to focus. Now, let's move to one age group below this, right? And these are the moneymooners. So you have a good job, you're starting to save 28 to 34. These people are talking more about saving for retirement. And I think it's because they're, not yet at a stage where they're thinking about their owning house, they're okay with renting, but they're saying that, hey, I want to save enough so I can retire early and I can have a fun life. So the 28 to 34 is thinking about retirement. Now, when we come to early jobbers, right, something very interesting comes up. So firstly, amongst early jobbers in the survey, women were more optimistic on their financial goals and their financial aspirations than men. So this is point number one. Second, right, early jobbers are prioritizing mental health much higher than the other categories. And I found one very heartening data point, Mubina. 39% of early jobbers are saying they would be open and are considering counseling in the coming year to help them get through the mental challenges of the pandemic. So the early jobbers, right, I think are very savvy, very conscious, and they've realized that mental health is an important priority area during the pandemic.
Yeah, in fact, from a health perspective, I noticed that mental health is the second biggest aspiration for Indians in the 2021, in your 2021 study. And I'm glad that, people are giving mental health so much of importance. They're stressing on it. We know what we've been through during the pandemic. Most of us have had to stay coped while listening to, not such good news coming in from not just from our neighborhood and from our loved ones, but around the world. However, Aadil, what do you think and what does your survey say with respect to what could be the biggest impediments these individuals believe to achieving these goals, achieving these aspirations, whatever they may be, from a health perspective, from maintaining good relations perspective? What are the biggest dampeners? What are the biggest impediments and hurdles?
Yeah, I think we have to talk about obstacles and impediments also, right? So I think broadly what we're seeing is 1 in 2 people felt that the progress towards their financial goals has been derailed, right, or slowed down. And this is more pronounced amongst the early jobbers. So younger people seem to be taking it more to heart, wherein 60% of them are saying that, oh, my financial goals got derailed. Now, let's go one by one through the biggest three impediments. And I think, this is something all of us have seen or faced or seen our inner circle go through. So number one, right, Mubina, is high medical expenses. So 43% of people are saying that they're worried and what ails them is high medical expenses. Number two, right, 33% are saying loss of income, wherein either it is because of salary cut or it's because of a loss of a job, but 33% saying loss of income ails them. And people have started eating into their savings. So 42% of people said loss of savings and investment is something that ails them. And all of this impediment translates into, I think, a deferment of goals. So what their goal was to start going in to invest in a house, that's been pushed out. Their goal in terms of building a retirement corpus, that's been pushed out. So I think people have basically deferred stuff. They've not given up on it. Their financial goals still remain the same three in terms of child's education, house, and retirement planning. But it seems as if it's been deferred by 1 to 5 years because of the setbacks that we've seen in income, in medical expenses, and in terms of loss of savings.
That's very important. It's not a cancellation of the goal. It's just a deferment. So where maybe you would have thought you'd buy a house next year, you'll probably now buy it 2 to 3 years later. Though of course there are no signs of that. We are seeing realty sales go through the roof. So that's clearly an indication. Within wealth, owning a home is one of the most important priorities, the biggest aspiration for Indians in 2021, and we are seeing a lot of them really aspire to that and fulfill those aspirations as well. All in all, Aadil, from what you've heard from all the individuals that you've interviewed for this study, how optimistic are Indians, looking forward? Are they confident of being able to achieve the goals, whatever they may be, having better mental health, investing more in their relationships, or, for example, the wealth goals like buying a better house? How confident are they in being able to achieve these goals?
Yeah, so Mubina, we see a sense of optimism that things will bounce back, right? So I think 82% of people have acknowledged that their aspirations have suffered a setback. But the same 82% of people, right, feel that between 6 months to 2 years, they will be able to recover from this. So I sense optimism that, yes, I've been impacted, but between 6 months to 2 years from now, I'm going to bounce back from this. And 82% of people in the Bank Bazaar Aspiration Index said that. Now, let's focus on what the main financial priorities for the next year are, things that have been deferred but still remain very high. I think it's very clearly buying a house. It is boosting the retirement funds. I think there's a little more consciousness that I need insurance, and people want to put away insurance both on the health and the term insurance side. In terms of non-financial, right, I think two things stand out, Mubina. So people are saying that they want to focus on nutrition and fitness because they realize that health is very, very important. Nutrition, what they eat, fitness, exercise, and very importantly, right, the number one priority on people's mind for the next year is spending time with loved ones. And I think each of us can attest to that. We've had close family members go through tough times. People have said that the biggest goal for the coming year in the Aspiration Index is spending quality time with their loved ones. Now, automatically the question is, what are they deprioritizing? They're deprioritizing spending money on premium products and betting on relationships, saying, I want to spend more time with a loved one.
Okay, well, we look forward to Aspiration Index 2022. I'm sure it's going to be better. Let's hope that it's going to be better. The score will be higher, which indicates that India is getting a bit more confident with their aspirations and their goal priorities and their ability to be able to achieve that as well. Aadil, thank you so much for joining us today on The Money Show.
Thank you, Mubina. Bye.